I'm a good guy for a gal. So why don't you look my palm over? I've got time for the chat. So won't you tell me my future? I'm gonna break down at 50, and I'm not quite a stallion. I'm a good guy for a gal, and I'm mentally sleeping. Oh yeah, what's that you see? Oh boy, find out what's up with me. Oh yeah, what's that you see? Tell me more of what's gonna be. If you're friends with P, then you're friends with me. If you're down with P, then you're down with me. Friends of P, friends of P, friends of P, friends of P. Somebody's fame and fortune is gonna come to me early. I get two loves in my life, and I'm dying at 90. If you're friends with P, then you're friends with me. If you're down with P, then you're down with me. Friends of P, friends of P, friends of P, friends of P. Don't fucking call it a comeback. Come on.
It's good.
Thank you. It's been years since we had that song on here.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to an old recording of the show, and it started with that, and I was like, oh, fuck. That used to be our theme song.
Mm-hmm.
Back when the FCC let us get away with that.
Yeah. No rules.
Yeah. Fuck YouTube. How dare they do this to us?
Bastards.
Never forget what they took away from you.
YouTube's doing some real shit lately. But we got that for later.
Oh, I know exactly what you're referring to. Welcome to the Two Schmoes Show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mr. Ryan, and I'm a schmo.
And I'm Cairo, and I'm telling you to check your computer for security updates because there's a real bad one that Windows has identified and put out a patch for.
Now, tell us a little bit about this security hazard, Mr. Cairo, because I don't believe in this kind of mumbo-jumbo.
Yeah, it's a real doozy. So apparently, Microsoft has found a security vulnerability in the Windows Wi-Fi driver that allowed hackers to exploit the driver to run malicious code on vulnerable systems over Wi-Fi. Basically, if you're in a public Wi-Fi setting and that's a place where anybody can connect to that Wi-Fi and you're connected to it, this vulnerability allows them to execute any code on your computer that they wanted to for, simplification, right? Yeah. It's really bad. Realistically, probably wouldn't come up too often, but in the kind of instance where it would basically brick your computer. So
I want to know who identified this.
Yeah, generally these kinds of things are found, and it's a good sign of a tech software company doing things right, where they have like bug bounty type systems for people to report these kinds of vulnerabilities and then be, rewarded for it rather than be reprimanded, right?
Yeah.
Because really the only way to find these kinds of vulnerabilities is to have the software be as open as possible so everybody can be looking at it. A couple of weeks ago, we had another sort of similar instance where there was a Linux version of some open source software that's incorporated into tons of computer systems. And the developer group who primarily works on it is a group of like a dozen people, and one of them was, because nerds are actually just psychopaths in disguise, was running like micro benchmarks on the software and realized that it was taking like tens of milliseconds longer than it was supposed to do some step of the process. And from that was able to dig further into this open source software and found that one of the developers, who had apparently been like a plant who had been infiltrating into it for like 3 years to gain the access that they needed to, had injected some malicious code into the program that was causing the slight delay.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It's real scary, but thankfully that's the kind of thing where, because it's open source, people are able to find it. People can just read the code, and if they know what they're reading, they can pick out the parts that are bad.
I will always have respect for people that can code / read code. That is a talent I am just not equipped with in life. What about you, Kyril? Have you ever tried coding?
A little bit. It never really stuck with me. I did a little bit on, like, what was it? In high school, when we had like the fancy graphing calculators.
Yeah.
They had some very basic coding functions that we would use occasionally to set up more advanced like graphing things.
Yeah.
And that was kind of neat, but felt like a lot more work than it was worth. And I feel like we've gotten so fast to the point today where it's just like I feel a little bit vindicated in that regard.
I agree. I feel like
did you see the Apple iPad calculator app thing?
No, what's this?
Where it's kind of a meme that up until now on iPad OS there wasn't a calculator app at all.
Okay.
Which is really dumb. But Apple, and part of their developer conference, announced that with the next version of iPad OS, they're going to be adding an iPad calculator. And more than that, because that's obviously not enough. You can't just have a calculator. It allows you to draw out like problems and formulas. And it has been trained on like machine learning to recognize those formulas and to connect variables, right? So like if you draw like a picture of something and put like x equals this, y equals that, z equals this for the different variables that are taking place in the scenario that you drew, and then you write a formula down on the bottom, it's able to know that the x that you referenced up in your picture is the x that you put in your formula down below. And it's able to spit out information as a result of that.
Okay.
And it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It makes calculating things like that very accessible, right? Because it's like, if you can draw the picture of the thing that you want to calculate, you can just sort of do it now. And that's neat. Yeah. I think I'm actually going to do the...
What's that?
I was just going to do... I think we just do the YouTube thing real quick now, because it's actually not that long of a thing.
Yeah, like the... Okay, go on.
So YouTube is testing a new type of like an unskippable ad, where rather than incorporating ads into the like as a separate thing that is viewed and displayed by the desktop, they're testing incorporating ads into videos on the server side so that they can't be skipped.
I love YouTube. I love how they just keep doing this bullshit.
It's great. I do recommend, because I think this is... We'll see how they actually implement it. I'm sure YouTube has much more or much greater technology budgets to implement features like this, of course. But the folks at Linus Tech Tips, who run their own video streaming service, Floatplane, although at a much smaller scale, were reporting on this news. And they actually talked about how they considered doing a similar system like this as they were setting up their web service. And not necessarily just for like ads, but just the idea of incorporating some piece of content that is not related to the main part of the video on a server side rather than being a separate thing that sort of like pops up and plays on its own. And the major problem that they found out when they did that was that as a user, you could just skip over it because it's just a part of the video at that point. So we'll see if YouTube does something to lock that down more to prevent that, but it doesn't seem to be the case from what we have seen so far. Yeah.
How fun.
Fuck you. Fuck Google.
Fuck YouTube.
Okay. Big, like, actual news week.
Oh,
Lots of
can I
stuff.
just point out one thing?
Yeah.
Have you seen that AI fucking PSA ad that's been going on YouTube?
No.
Oh my god.
See, I'm an idiot, and I pay for YouTube Premium, so I don't see ads.
I'm so fucking jealous. It's like
it is the best investment I have ever fucking made.
It's a Google AI ad.
Yeah.
And it's the most annoying song in the world. So it's like, where the fuck do I find it? Oh, they won't let you look up the song. Just know, it's the most annoying song I've heard in my whole life. And it's called How About Generate an Image of a Cat Playing Guitar.
That's what the song is called?
I think so, because that's the chorus.
Oh. Extremely cringeworthy.
I know. But it's just that easy. Am I doing AI? Back to where you were going. Sorry, I just wanted to rant because it's officially the worst song of the year. And this is a year with Jelly Roll, so.
Did you see that he was in the concert thing that Eminem put on?
No. Go on.
So, what was it? Detroit Stadium. I just knew. Does it pull it up? No, it's not quite what I want. There's some new like stadium or event center that just recently got stadium performance Detroit, where Eminem was expected to be present because he was like producing it, but he wasn't scheduled to actually perform. But then, like at the very end of the night, like at midnight, he actually did come on and did like a 20-minute just short live show, and apparently he had Jelly Roll do vocals with him on it.
Okay, Jelly Roll's got a good voice.
Yeah,
He is not a good lyricist.
yeah.
Like, I just can we go on a small Jelly Roll rant?
Please.
Okay, so every time I've been listening to the fucking radio and I have to stop and say, what the fuck am I listening to? 9 times out of 10, it's been Jelly Roll. Here's some lyrics to a song I heard the other day off his Self-Medicated album in 2020. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
This is from a song called Save Me. Someone save me from myself. I've spent so long living in hell. They say my lifestyle's bad for my health. It's the only thing that seems to help. All of this drinking and smoking is helpless, but I feel like it's all that I need. Something inside me is broken. I hold on to anything that sets me free. I'm a lost cause, baby, don't waste your time on me. I'm so damaged beyond repair, life has shattered my hopes and my dreams. I'm a lost cause, baby, don't waste your time on me. I'm so damaged beyond repair, life has shattered my hopes and dreams. What if the night sky was missing the moon? I'm sorry, I just want to like do that. 2 guys on the moon and one killed each other with a rock. Wouldn't that be fucked up or what? But, you know, besides the fact, I don't want to read more of this. This is just this is edgy. And this is a man in his fucking 30s.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, have you seen the guy?
Dude looks like fucking Post Malone's older brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pre-Malone. I'm actually very curious what his life story is.
Pre-liposuction Malone.
Pre-liposuction Malone. Let's see here. Country artist. Would you call him country or hip hop?
I don't even know at this point. The entire country music space has just gotten so fucked that, like, who even knows, right?
Like, let me put it this way, okay? The only good thing that's come out of country music, in my opinion, right now, right,
Hmm.
is a Beyonce album.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you heard Beyonce's country album?
No.
Oh my god, dude, it's good. Like, I'm not that biggest country fan, but Cowboy Carter is a legitimately good album.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know. There was like one song on there I didn't even realize was Beyonce until like someone had to point it out to me, and that's what got me interested in the album. And it was all written as a way of Beyonce saying "fuck you" to the country industry.
Yeah, the country industry in general has gotten pretty fucked. So that's
Beyond
fair.
fucked. Yeah. What else do we have on the show? If I'm not going to shit on the country industry for hours.
Big news this week is we got some Supreme Court. Did I just accidentally close the tab? Which one was that? Supreme Court rulings.
Ooh. Not looking forward to these.
One of them is good in the short term, at least. So I guess we'll start with that one. The Supreme Court has dismissed a lawsuit trying to block access to the abortion pill mifepristone. Even that, calling it an abortion pill seems like a bit of a stretched definition. In this case, at least, the Supreme Court unanimously dismissed this case because the people suing, a group of doctors, the Supreme Court rejected the idea that they were allowed to bring this suit to their court. The doctors were not harmed in any way by this decision. Mifepristone is an over-the-counter abortion pill, so it's not even like they have to write a prescription for this thing that they disagree with, potentially. Yeah, so good in the near term in that it preserves access nationally to mifepristone.
Yeah.
The other side of it, though, is that they have basically, as part of their decision, written a roadmap to give future, I don't even call them, anti-abortion idiots a path to try and claim damages.
No, guys, if you want to do it, you have to do it this way.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Well, that's upsetting.
Mm-hmm. It's not great. But, short term, it's good enough, I suppose. It was a welcome change to see the Supreme Court, like, do their job at all.
Yeah. Do you know about the world's unhealthiest restaurant?
Not by that description.
Okay, my apologies. I should have used something better, but I had to Google it to get the name.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my offer, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Heart Attack Grill.
Okay.
Yes. Go on their Wikipedia page. There's a whole section dedicated to illnesses and death. People over 350 pounds and more get to eat there for free. I learned about this today, hanging out with my girlfriend, watching some YouTube videos about travel and whatnot. This is a message to the Supreme Court. I will pay for a free meal if y'all want to come down with me and eat from this restaurant. We won't even talk about politics. We'll talk about whatever you want. We can talk about RVs, recreational vehicles, how much we just hate the left. You know, we can do whatever we want. We'll just eat there, though.
God, that's fucked. Apparently, I'm just skimming through the illnesses and death thing. Like, the fact that that exists as a category at all is terrible. But they describe one of these guys as a daily patron. Just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, dude. Like, this place is legitimately kind of... It's a parody restaurant, but it's also not a very healthy place.
Yeah.
The whole point is to try and get people to stop eating these by giving them, like, an ultra decadent version of these. However, you know, you can't help everybody, you know?
Yeah. I don't think it's working.
No, the fact there are multiple deaths. Now, I do want to point out one thing for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently their application process is also fucking insane.
Is it?
Let me pull this up because my girlfriend was pulling up an application. Ready for this? Okay. Going to their website. Okay, what position are you applying for? That's fine. But they want to know stuff like, what's your zodiac? Your pet affiliation. Do you have a nickname? What's your ideal workout? Is your belly button an innie or an outie? Was there room for Jack on the raft in Titanic? Who are you in Greece? If you were elected president, what would be your first action? Who would win in a fight? I mean, why would you win a fight? Who would win in a fight? What character best describes you? Would you have a hot one night stand with? Who would you have? And they give you an option of Bugs Bunny, SpongeBob, Mickey Mouse, or Homer Simpson. Why'd you choose them? If you could only have one social media outlet, which would it be? Which famous person were you in a past life? Your opinion on a list of conspiracy theories. Attach your best tongue stick out face. Your freestyle silly face. The I think I'm sexy faced. And who's got the world's sexiest butt? And then there's a list of all the drugs you think should be legal. There's a Rorschach test in there.
I wonder if this is the kind of place that doesn't, like, hires people as, like, actors who serve or whatever the hell it is.
Ooh, that's a good point. And I'm still missing, like, a lot. Last thing on the list is, no one gives a damn about your academic achievements, but you can bore us. Go ahead. So yeah, I am prepared to offer the Supreme Court a free meal there. What's next on the agenda, Carol? I'm on a roll.
Next one.
Yeah.
Supreme Court rules bump stock ban is unlawful.
Boo.
I don't know. This one is, I wish this one was trickier. Basically, I believe this one was a 6-3. Let me double check. I believe it was a 6-3 on ideological lines, with the majority, the conservatives, saying that by definition, a bump stock does not meet the requirements that the current law describes as a machine gun, which was the basis that they were banned under the Trump administration, by applying it to pre-existing law that the ATF has. It seems, I don't know, a bit nonsensical in part, because part of the majority opinion basically says that Congress should just pass a new law to ban these specifically, which seems to run a bit contradictory to their own opinions, because they recognize that in like function, these do act with the same effect as the intent would be to use one as a machine gun. So it feels very twisted in that regard. Yeah. Not a whole lot to say on it, unfortunately. It just sucks.
Yeah. Thank you, Supreme Court, for all that you do. Yum, yum, yum.
Mm-hmm. Notably, this was not a Second Amendment issue. So if in some hypothetical future where there was the necessary votes in Congress to pass gun legislation of this type, it should not run into constitutional problems at the very least. So that is a good sign, at least, that, you know, it should be a relatively easy fix in a government that works. We just don't live in a country with a government that works.
Yay!
Yay.
Thank you, Ronald Reagan.
I did see a very funny, let me actually double check to make sure. But there's a comment on basically like all of these Supreme Court decisions that's just like, yeah, when did they do the presidential immunity one? And the general consensus was that they are saving it for basically last. No, I don't want October. Because they know it's going to be the most contentious one. So they just want to go and fuck off onto their holiday after.
I would love to work for the Supreme Court. Well, work as a Supreme Court judge.
Yeah.
Yeah, you only have to. You don't even have to get all your hearings, right? You can just kick something out because you don't want to talk about it.
I see. So that's why. So. Holiday. Looks like this next week would be one of the last opportunities before their summer break. Before they reconvene in October. And it's wild that it's called the summer break because it's literally the entirety of July, August, and September.
Oh, Jesus.
It's just like, yeah, it must be fucking nice. So they'll probably wait until the very last moment that they can next week to release their opinions on the presidential immunity case. Or what would be really insidious of them would be to not rule on it at all and force the case to be stayed until basically the end of the, or it would be until like after the election.
What do you think they're going to do?
I think they'll rule on it.
You think so?
Yeah. I don't know. It should be, I think, I don't know. It should be a very straightforward case. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they clearly don't have any interest in demonstrating, you know, a lack of bias. And we'll get into that one in literally 2 more articles here. Because there's a real doozy this week on that front. So I would hope that they just take the easy route and be just like, yeah, no, presidential immunity is not absolute. Go back to the whatever appeals court it was and finish your job. Because anything else would be psychotic, right?
Yeah.
Like, the options are presidents aren't immune. Absolutely. Presidents are immune. Absolutely. In which case, Biden, he wouldn't, because, you know, yeah. But, like, theoretically, Biden could just have Trump assassinated, and there'd be no recourse for it. It's like, that obviously can't be the case. And then the real fucked up thing would be the possibility of there being like some sort of middle ground where Trump exclusively was immune in this particular case for some bullshit reason, or immunity has to be determined on a case by case basis or something ridiculous like that. And I hope that doesn't come to be the case. I hope they just rule, yeah, this is a nonsense argument, and we're ruling on it last because we know that either way that a ruling is made, some people are going to be very angry with us. And we'd rather be in our houses than having to walk through protesters to get to work every day.
The Supreme Court lacks the cojones.
Mm-hmm. In some smaller SCOTUS news, there's an interesting quote I just wanted to make a comment on from Amy Coney Barrett, who has somehow gone in the last year from being the second to least qualified person on the Supreme Court to somehow being like kind of in the middle now.
Uh-oh.
Which is wild as hell to see happen in real time. But apparently, as part of an interview, she expressed the sentiment that the views of preceding generations can persuade, and even in the realm of stare decisis, even bind. But tradition is not an end in itself, and I fear that the court uses it that way here. So, very interesting to see whether that actually pans out into anything meaningful remains to be seen. But the fact that Barrett is publicly dissenting even at all from the major conservative justices is kind of newsworthy in itself.
I think so. Do you think like Supreme Court judges hang out with each other outside of work?
I know some of them do.
I was about to say, because like I feel like saying shit like that is going to get her uninvited to like the camping trip they all go on.
Mm-hmm. And that's a literal thing that they do.
Is it? Is it really a thing?
No, yeah, like literally there, I believe it was on one of John Oliver's pieces talking about the Supreme Court. There was a picture that he showed that had at least two of the Supreme Court justices on like a Wyoming camping trip with a bunch of like oil CEOs or something.
That's so fucking stupid and silly.
Yeah. Like, what do you expect, though?
Something less comedically evil. Like, at least go go-karting, you know? Because, like, if you take the Supreme Court out go-karting, they're, like, outside having fun and whatnot, you can go pull off the line of, man, I sure like cars going fast. Be a real shame if they couldn't go fast anymore.
Mm-hmm. So the other part here that came up this week that is very concerning, not surprising, but, you know, added onto the pile of the corruption of the Supreme Court. Samuel Alito had a piece of audio leaked.
Uh-oh.
Regarding his stance on the relation of the court and Catholicism.
Catholicism?
Yep. So he was having a conversation with somebody, and the person says, as a Catholic and as someone who like really cherishes my faith, I don't know that we can negotiate with the left in the way that needs to happen for the polarization to end. I think it's a matter of like winning. To which Samuel Alito responds, I think you're probably right.
The man's not aware of the Pope, is he?
Yeah. So that's where they're at right now. Where a Supreme Court justice was caught on a hot mic saying that I think it's probably right that there is no way to negotiate with the left and that it's just a matter of winning.
How do you even call this politics anymore? It's like fucking football at this point.
Yeah. Oh, literally.
Yeah.
It's just teams for these people.
I don't get it. Like, do your goddamn jobs. It's amazing what microplastics and lead do to a generation. What else do we have, Mr. Chiral?
Uh, Not sure if, I don't know. Debating if I want to bring this up. We'll bring that part up later. 11th Circuit has made a ruling to strip immunity from a police officer who fatally shot an incapacitated, non-threatening dog after its owner called 911.
I have so many questions. So,
Mm-hmm.
dogs have more rights than certain groups of people here?
Yeah, that is certainly one takeaway.
Also, why the hell did they just shoot a dog?
Yes, because they're cowards. From the opinion, Plowright sued the Miami-Dade County, its police chief, and two of its police officers after one of those officers, Cordova, fatally shot Plowright's dog at the scene of an investigation. The district court dismissed Plowright's complaint, concluding, among other things, that Cordova was entitled to qualified immunity because he did not violate any clearly established right when he shot the dog, Niles. We disagree. Addressing a matter of first impression in this court, we hold that the use of deadly force against a domestic animal constitutes a seizure of its owner's property subject to the Fourth Amendment's reasonableness requirement. Because, under the facts alleged in the complaint, no reasonable officer in Cordova's position could have believed that Niles posed an imminent danger, his decision to shoot Niles falls short of that requirement. And despite the novel factual circumstances described in Plowright's complaint, this is one of those rare cases in which the unconstitutional nature of Cordova's actions was clearly established to the point of obvious clarity, even in the absence of direct on-point case law. Plowright, a resident of Miami-Dade County, called 911 to report someone trespassing on the vacant property near his home. Miami-Dade police officer Leordanis Rondon and Cordova responded to the call, approaching Plowright's front door, quote, through a dimly lit driveway. As Plowright came to greet the officers, they drew their guns and immediately began shouting at Plowright to show them his hands. When Plowright's dog Niles, an American bulldog weighing less than 40 pounds, entered the scenes, the officer ordered Plowright to get control of him. Before Plowright did so, Rondon fired his taser at Niles, sending him into shock, and then, after the dog was already down from the taser, Cordova fired at least 2 shots from his gun, killing the dog for no reason. The officers then ordered the emotionally devastated Plowright to the ground as Niles lay dying.
What the fuck?
Yep. Cops hate dogs almost as much as they hate their wives, but they also hate dogs a lot. I don't know if you've heard this, but what's the number of dogs killed by police per day? Do you want to take a guess what that number is?
Uh, you know, is it less or more than my? Is it more than minority police brutality?
Probably not.
Okay. 35.
You're close.
No.
Very close.
No.
Yeah. 24, 28. 28 that we know of. But because this happens so commonly, the police aren't exactly under a requirement to keep good records about how many dogs they actually shoot. So we don't exactly know, but it's 28 per day that we know of.
So was that lady who killed her puppy? You know who I'm talking about? The governor.
Yep.
Was she just doing like a back the blue statement by killing that puppy in cold blood?
Yeah, she was just ahead of the trends.
Damn, dude.
Yeah. I would hope that, assuming this opinion holds up under appeal, because I imagine this is going to be appealed further, the idea that when a threat is not posed and they shoot a dog, the idea that it is a constitutional right violation is novel and would hopefully prevent these kinds of situations from happening again. Because that makes it a much more serious penalty. And it should be pretty easy to demonstrate in a lot of these circumstances that the vast majority of these dogs that get killed by police do not pose risks, not immediate risks.
It was a 40-pound bulldog. What was it going to do?
Yeah.
Bite you?
A 40-pound bulldog that's already been tased.
Yeah, that's the fucked up part.
Yeah.
And it was a human taser too, and that's like going up against like a dog that's like a quarter of the weight that it's intended for.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into some positive news.
Such thing as positive news?
Judge approves liquidation of Alex Jones' personal assets to pay Sandy Hook victims' families.
Oh, is this? I remember this because he was crying on his show about having to sell his ranch.
Yep. I believe. Where was the other one? I had another one that was up here about the status of his business, but I don't know where that went. I lost it.
How do like a whole bunch of right wing figures not see like the writing on the wall of what happened to Alex Jones and not just like get the fuck out while they can?
So the judge said that they did not include Jones's company, Free Speech Systems Infowars, as part of the ruling. Quote, I think remaining assets can be resolved outside of a bankruptcy forum. So that's kind of twofold in that both the state will not be liquidating Infowars, but the other side of it is that they also, in the same breath, kind of dismissed Infowars' claims of bankruptcy for being invalid, so they can't hide behind that yet either.
Lovely.
But yeah, Jones' personal assets are absolutely going to start being liquidated. So get fucked, Alex.
Can we go to like the auction?
Is it up already?
I don't know. I'll look for it.
Yeah, go ahead. I had heard in particular that he was being forced to sell a bunch of antique firearms.
Why is it always antique firearms?
Because these people have no originality to their bones.
Like before the show, I was showing Cairo like all these cool Soviet era guitars I was looking at. That at least tells a little bit of a story. The fucking antique art, like who wants a gun that can jam up at any second?
Well, they don't shoot them, of course.
Then what's the point of a gun?
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel very much the same way about like art people. People who buy art just to mothball it because it's valuable because they paid a lot of money for it is so fucked.
Okay, so like, I can't tell you this because it's a Glass Onion spoiler, but the kind of scenario of people who have like an art collector's fetish, unless there's like a personal value that you give it, like that's unique to yourself, I don't understand the point in art collecting.
I agree.
I have some art in my apartment, which are mainly like art prints, but there's canvases I've painted. So yeah, that makes sense. For like, I don't need the fucking Starry Night in here to make me happy.
I very much agree on that. Like mass-produced art prints seem very tacky to me.
I can't find the actual liquidation sale, and they might be a few days away.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's probably not quite up yet because their last decision was only made on Friday.
Damn. We'll wait.
So, yep, it'll be fun to see.
Dude, if we can get like some of his own personal audio equipment for the show, I'd be happy.
I don't think that kind of stuff is going to be going up for auction.
Damn.
Because the Infowars, all of that crap was deemed to be separate.
Yeah, but like...
So, like in theory, he would have to sell his stakes in the company, whatever that entails. But, and you know, they could garnish his wages, I guess you could say, as a result of that. If he's still an employee of it. So, yeah. Yeah. And the other side of that is that the federal bankruptcy judge did also say, like, basically take it up in state court. Which kind of makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
He's already made the ruling that Jones is at fault to the degree that his assets need to be liquidated. So that'll be a pretty big blow to him, for sure. In other news, a California law banning hidden fees is going into effect in July.
Good.
Absolutely. Piece I saw pointed out about this is that apparently restaurant owners are trying to lobby for an exemption, claiming that because they're already struggling in the market, And that the reason that they charge such fees is because somebody won't pay $25 for a plate, but when the house adds a 5% fee on top of that, they could do, they can actually sell their things. And it's just like, kind of fucked. Give us an exemption to deceive our customers because we can't afford to run our businesses otherwise.
Do you ever miss like classical economics, the kind of stuff you would like read about in like economics class in high school?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good fantasy stories.
Good fantasy stories, yeah.
I'll say though, and I probably shouldn't be saying this out loud because I was shocked at how good of a deal this was. Anybody who happens to be in the Kalamazoo Portage area and you want a bite to eat and you're like, so I saw, we'll talk about some of this later, but saw Furiosa again on Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
Got out at like 10 o'clock, like 10:30 specifically. So almost everywhere's already closed for food service, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find like, where can I go just to get a burger? Only place open was the Wendy's down the road from me. So it's like, yeah, sure, whatever. I'll stop in, get a single with cheese, and go home and eat it. It was like $5.50 for just a burger. No drink, no fries, just a burger. Go to Bilbo's, pizza place that I like, on the other side towards Kalamazoo. For $10, I can get a personal pizza, a personal cheesy sticks, and a pint of beer. And it's all homemade, handmade in the house.
Okay.
Beer off the tap. And it's just like, what are we doing with fast food? What the fuck is going on here? Like, because you can cut out the beer, and that's like $4 gone.
Yeah.
So it's like $6 for way more food, and like I paid a whole 25 cents extra, and it was just made fresh. What the hell? Why would I ever go to Wendy's again? I probably won't. I'm just gonna go to Bilbo's and get these mini pan pizzas because they're a crazy good deal.
This episode of Two Schmoes Show, not sponsored by Bilbo's.
Not sponsored, just a huge fan.
Yeah, that's probably like the best thing to do nowadays is just word of mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck these restaurants that act like they can't possibly get by without deceiving their customers. Just absolute scum.
Like, I understand there's an anxiety because like most restaurants shut down within 3 years. But also I feel like a lot of restaurateurs think that on the merit that they understand business, they automatically understand a restaurant.
Yep.
Yeah. I knew this one guy. I guess I'll keep this quiet because I don't want to be too mean about it. But like, I knew a guy once who was he had 3 successful businesses, and then he decided he wanted to get a restaurant on top of that. And within like the first 2 years of running that restaurant, he ran it to the ground, and he had to start getting money from his other businesses to support the restaurant.
Yep.
Restaurants don't fuck around, man.
Nope. People really underestimate what it takes to run them.
Yeah. I often joke that I could run a coffee shop, but I would have to run it as a coffee shop and not as a restaurant because I don't think I could run a restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. You definitely have to have like a bit of a gimmick or something, right? To kind of ease off. Because if you're just trying to commit on value for just food, it's basically impossible.
Yeah. Unless your food is really good.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, you have to be like best in whatever it is that you're serving.
You have to specialize so hard. Like, I've seen restaurants with like giant menus of like 30 plus items. Those never do well.
No.
None.
All right. Let's jump over to Pennsylvania.
What's in Pennsylvania?
Interesting ACLU lawsuit that was filed. ACLU has filed a lawsuit in Pennsylvania claiming that their systemic underfunding of their public defenders is unconstitutional, as it is depriving people of their rights to having an attorney present. Or fair representation.
The premise of this lawsuit and the fact that it does also ultimately do a good thing, but it's so petty at the same time.
I hope it succeeds,
Yes.
or at least continues to escalate to get more attention, because I don't know how effectively they could. Yeah, like the big argument I think is going to be just like, well, how do we fund something like that? To which the response should be, we don't fucking care, figure it out, that's your job.
Yeah.
But I could very much see them being the government of Pennsylvania, arguing that that is some problem we don't have a solution for kind of thing, and trying to argue otherwise. But I
Weasel
very
their
much
way out.
I like the premise that the ACLU has presented here, for sure. It's novel. I like that.
I like the term novel.
It's a good term.
Yeah. I think I might be a little biased because I'm writing a book right now, but novel is a good term.
Right. Skimming through some of these and deciding that probably don't really care. Like the judgeships thing is just kind of like, it's not really news at this point. Senate panels like, we should do this, and it hasn't really actually gone up for a vote anywhere yet. So, this was an interesting story that I found. Was meant to bring up last week, but didn't work out with scheduling of everything. New York Times article going over a Republican election clerk in a small town who has been harassed nearly to death by basically her neighbors for doing her job as an election clerk.
Every time I hear
Absolutely
election
wild.
clerk, I feel like I know where the story goes.
Yep.
Yeah.
This Republican election clerk only certified 82% of her district for Trump in 2020. And as a result, she's facing a recall due to locals thinking that she's part of some vast left-wing conspiracy. Quote, who could have believed that Cindy, sweet Cindy, our Cindy, could be connected to the deep state umbilical cord?
Fuck
That is
off.
a real quote from these deranged people.
I love this monsters on Maple Street mentality they're hurting right here.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's genuinely insane.
Not sweet Cindy. You say your first name like you fucking know her. I guarantee whoever said that probably never even had her at the house for dinner.
I don't know. I mean, they might have, though. I don't know. That's the scary thing, is that they might have.
Yeah.
Another good quote. Zachis wrote notes in case she needed evidence for a future appeal and rubbed essential oils on her wrists to stay calm. Just what the fuck?
I now want to do like a little animated skit of like some person that's like very into the essential oils.
Yeah.
But like as a means to pleasure themselves, they rub them on their nipples. You know, like a good old hedonism right there.
Mm-hmm.
What the actual fuck is wrong with people?
Yeah. 82% is not enough.
It couldn't be Sydney. We love Sydney. Who?
Jesus. Elgin continued to stand up at each meeting to dispute and disprove these allegations by citing election laws and facts. They began to blame her too, the most unlikely scapegoat of all. She had served as the clerk without controversy for 2 decades as an elected Republican, and she flew a flag at her own home that read Trump 2024, Take America Back. But lately, some local Republicans had begun referring to her as Luciferinda, or as the clerk of the deep state cabal. They accused her of being paid off by Dominion and skimming votes away from Trump, and even though their allegations came with no evidence, they wanted her recalled from office before the next presidential election in November.
I love how they can. It's easier to manifest a perspective that your close loved ones are betraying you than that you're not in the right or that you're not in the popular view. Yeah. That's some deep id self-serving like mentality right there.
It's also a really good example of how aggressively the conservatives are cannibalizing themselves now.
Oh, totally. It's like the
Yeah,
good
it's
old
like,
Michigan GOPD. I mean,
yeah,
GOP. What the fuck is the D in there? Yeah.
82% is not enough for them. And just being told the fact that it is 82% causes them to evict their own elected officials from office. Just deranged.
Do you think they like get tired of this eventually, or do you think they're just going to keep getting worse and worse?
I don't know. It. I don't see how it gets better.
Fair.
You know.
I don't think it can get better. Like in
Yeah.
a very fatal way.
Like when you're at the point of accusing your like your neighbor, your purported friend, person who's done their job for the last 20 years, who certified the election overwhelmingly in favor of the way that it almost certainly went, and that's not good enough for you. And it's not good enough for you to the extent that you think they are an agent of the deep state. I don't know.
I don't get it.
I don't see a way back from that.
Why have to fucking love thy neighbor?
No, it's gone and dead.
Yeah.
If it
Fair.
ever really existed.
Damn.
Um Yeah, we'll see how that goes. On the horizon is the sentencing for Trump's New York case. It's going to be very interesting to see how that ends up going. I feel like where did it go? The R Law subreddit actually did a poll to see what people's expectations are for Trump's sentencing on July 11th. Overwhelmingly, vast majority of people believe it'll be probation and fines. 1,300 total votes, 744 of those for probation and fine. Another 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that's another 230 are for something less than that, either probation only, fines only, or no penalty at all. Only, call it 300, less than a third, believe it'll be any jail time at all. And it kind of makes sense given everything that we've seen. But it's the kind of thing, right, where it is hard to be logical about it because logic has been thrown out so many times before this.
Yeah.
Right? The maximum financial penalty for this is only $170,000. And Virginia knows that. Only. And for Trump, that's basically nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Trump was both, failed to show any remorse or admit wrongdoing. He was disruptive. What was this? Before, during, and after the trial, his behavior was atrocious. And he continues to try to break the rules of the gag orders that were put in place for him.
Well, did you expect him to do anything otherwise?
Well, no, not at all. But when you compare that to Cohen, who was sentenced to 3 years in jail for assisting in the crime that Trump is now being tried for, there is no way that makes sense for him to. There shouldn't be a way for it to make sense that he avoids jail time, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's concerning for sure. And the report that I had seen that talked about this was apparently somebody had quoted Trump as the prospect of serving prison time appears to be sinking in more forcefully. And the former president has been peppering friends and aides with specific questions about what that might entail, including what type of jail do you think they'll send me to? So, I don't know. It feels awfully wishful at this point,
I don't know. I feel like if Trump went to jail, one of two things would happen, right?
Yeah.
Either he dies or he causes a riot in there.
I don't know. If he's going to a jail, it's going to be a cushy white collar one, you know?
Yeah, but like, I don't think he could survive in a jail. You know, he's a little wallflower. He can't survive the concrete. Even cushy white jail.
I think for now I'm still holding on to my prior predictions where there's absolutely going to be fines to the maximum.
Yeah.
There's almost certainly going to be probationary terms. Hopefully that include barring him from further harassing the witnesses involved and the members of the court who ruled on it, including like the clerks and stuff that he harassed. And I would hope, additionally, that there is some extended period of house arrest, at the very least.
So you're going to take all of his money and fuck him at home so that he can't go out rallying.
Well, no, so that's the thing, is you'd probably have to allow exceptions for political activity.
Oh, you're right.
But it would still be a massive pain, and I would hope that as terms of the probation, he would have to submit what activities he wants to attend and when and where they are well ahead of time. But, don't know.
I don't know either.
Some other rapid fire stuff. God, what was this? Trump tries to lower expectations for Biden debate. Maybe I'm better off losing the debate. I'll lose the debate on purpose. Not much more than that. Very funny, though. Comes after earlier this week where Trump... Where is the quote? Oh, where did it go? Trump criticized... yeah, no shit. Criticized the city of Milwaukee for some reason. Donald Trump attacked Milwaukee in a meeting with Republicans on the Hill. Now Republicans are desperately trying to cover for him. Donald Trump visited Capitol Thursday to meet with Republicans in Congress and supposedly discuss strategy, but didn't take long to move on tangents and dump on the site of this year's Republican National Convention, Milwaukee. Trump to White House Republicans, quote, Milwaukee, where we are having our convention, is a horrible city. To which Joe Biden had the quick response, posting on Twitter, I happen to love Milwaukee. And it has a picture of him posing with members of the Milwaukee Bucks basketball team.
I love how everything... I think there's a difference between the three Donald Trump presidential campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
Because, 2016 was probably the peak era for him.
Mm-hmm.
He was actually kind of funny. He was scary, but kind of funny. 2020, there's definitely, a little bit of doubt in him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like this has been, the most anxious I've ever seen this man is throughout, this 2024 period.
Yep.
I feel like everything he says has a hint of anxiety to it.
Keeping up with the rapid fire stuff, a photographer was disqualified from an AI image contest after submitting and winning with a real photo.
W.
Excellent work. This was Miles Astray submitted their photo Flamingon, which is a photo that appears to show a flamingo with its head missing. And apparently this wasn't like an accident or anything. The guy very intentionally submitted his real photo into this AI contest to prove the point, and I think he did so.
Could you imagine being those poor judges right now?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to know, where's the competition in that for fucking, those goobers in AI photos?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question.
Because it's basically RNG.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much. I don't know. It's all a lot of it when it comes to those kinds of realms seems to be very much rooted in the same sort of, I don't even want to call it nihilism, fatalism, I guess, that surrounds the Gamergate kind of stuff.
Mm.
If that makes sense, where it's like this pervasive idea of there being some kind of like thing that these people are being deprived of access to by their immutable characteristics. In this case, them not wanting to learn how to draw or take a picture, because that's just what this was. It was a picture that somebody took. Has very much the same vibe to me.
I think it's definitely there's like this lack of life experience that goes into AI people,
Mm-hmm.
where they don't have the life experience necessarily to like say they're creative or anything like that, but they've
Mm-hmm.
consumed so much media, so much like content that they understand the basics of the creative process, and
Yeah.
therefore they feel like they can just regurgitate that in
Yep.
order to produce something that they see as unique.
Boy, does it look regurgitated.
Yeah. I remember the first time I used an AI generator just to see what they were all about. I broke it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always find that to be really fascinating. Is that the people who make these AI software tools show these best cases, right, of what their tools can do, and then it's very trivial to just absolutely destroy them with basically zero effort.
Yes.
There's one that's going around lately of trying to compare the really early iterations of AI of machine learning video generation that was of Will Smith eating spaghetti or something that looked horrible compared to a current demonstration that was posted of a Asian person eating noodles and how good it looks. And it's just like, okay, surface level, yeah. This is a clip of a person eating noodles that could pass for real. But it's all of 4 seconds long out of a 2 minute thing that you generated. It's not of Will Smith, which the first one was. So it's already off the bat kind of apples to oranges in that regard. And people went out and tried to recreate it, and they couldn't. They could get close, but it was never quite as pristine as the perfect demonstration that was being shown off. So, smoke and mirrors.
I have nothing else to say. I will say,
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm working on a jazz album right now, right?
Yep.
And the idea was to try and make it like it was a AI generated album. I found I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't do it. I
Yeah.
eventually realized I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can
And I
appreciate that.
thank you, thank you. I find that a lot of it is like it's like the pop music problem, right?
Yep.
I don't think a lot of people actually like a lot of the stuff that's on the radio, but it's the least offensive thing on the radio. By making it as milquetoast as possible and then just putting in like this thing that nobody can agree with, you're at
Mm-hmm.
least doing the opposite, which is um, alienating people. You're preventing
Mm-hmm.
the idea of alienating others.
For sure.
And I find that even with trying to replicate AI art, you got to have that same mentality.
In other news,
Yo,
Michigan has finally surpassed California as the top cannabis market in the U.S. by sales volume. Apparently, this is almost entirely due to our relatively very cheap sales taxes compared to other places. So, as a comparison, in where was it? Washington has a 37% tax on cannabis sales. Minnesota is 10%. And for Michigan, I believe where was it? It's like basically the same as our regular sales tax. So not substantially less than Minnesota's 10%, but still, if you're spending $300 on something, 4% is a pretty good chunk.
Yeah.
So generally seems to be the consensus, particularly people in the Chicago area and northern Wisconsin and Minnesota making the drive over because of the just wildly different tax rates. So yeah, go Michigan. Hell yeah.
We're number one. We're the fucking best.
Yeah.
Suck it, Florida. If you seek a pleasant peninsula, look about you.
Ukraine update. Everything still sucks. And there's Ukraine update. No, in some more specific terms, 2 days ago, Putin, in a meeting with like his ministers or some shit, put out his talks for like what would be necessary for a ceasefire, and it's basically untenable. It was something like, called on the Ukrainian government to withdraw from 4 regions partially occupied by Russia: Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhzhia. Which is just like, that's not going to happen. And Zelensky fired back today, as a 90-nation peace meeting is set to start tomorrow. Basically said, we'll only talk peace if Russia leaves Ukraine. So, Putin, go fuck yourself. Last couple pieces here. France has had a wild week for politics.
Yeah, tell me more about this.
So, I'm gonna double check here. Most of this I initially learned from a French person who I chat with on Discord, who was talking about just the wild shit that was going on in their country. And they linked to a thread on Twitter that is pretty extensive that goes through some of the more specifics that happened this last week. And it's a bit long, but I'm just going to go through it all because there's a lot that happened. So, starting off the week, EU elections were held for determining France's representatives. Le Pen, the conservative Rassemblement National party, took the majority of the seats in a major way, dealing a major blow to Macron's current incumbent party. As a result, Macron decided to dissolve the National Assembly, calling on France to elect new MPs on the 30th of June. As this person puts it, this started what can only be called a movement of total panic throughout the French political class, because parties only have until this weekend, so it's already passed, to present their candidates and therefore decide on a strategy, who to ally with, etc. The left got their things together fairly fast, almost immediately announcing the creation of a popular front that gathers all the left-wing parties. Hilariously, Raphael Glucksmann, the head candidate of the Socialist Party for the EU elections, tried to prevent the alliance by going on TV to list some ridiculous preconditions for it. But literally no one listened to him, and they went forward with it anyways. Many memes on Glucksmann effectively pushing himself out of the French left, and he was never really on the left anyhow. And it's now on the right that things start to go wild after Eric Ciotti, the president of Les Républicains, the party of Chirac and Sarkozy, announced that they would make an alliance with Le Pen's party, who had won the EU elections. Almost immediately, top officials in his own party started saying that Ciotti was speaking by his own name only and said he needed to resign from the party's presidency. Ciotti reacted by literally shutting down the party headquarters to prevent this destitution. Republican MP was filmed in front of the closed doors of the headquarters, saying that they'll get emergency services to break down the doors for them. Again, more memes were had. Finally, the general secretary of the party, who had spare keys, got the doors to the party headquarters opened and managed to have everybody get inside. The political desk of Les Républicains announced that they've met, decided to fire Ciotti as president of the party, and that he is not a member of the party anymore. Ciotti disagrees, says that the members that fired him didn't conform to the rules of the party, so he in fact, quote, is and remains president of the party. The infighting continued, and it is still unclear who actually manages the party at this stage and whether they'll ally with Le Pen. Ciotti claims that 80 Republican MPs are with him and prepares to campaign under Le Pen's banner. One thing is sure, Ciotti still controls Republicans' Twitter account. Quote, the president of the Republicans is and will remain Eric Ciotti. That post has since been deleted. He also has the vice president of the party on his side. Quote, with Marine Le Pen and Jordan Bardella, we share 90 to 95% of the same ideas. All in all, the party seems extremely divided and is imploding in real time. For the right, things are pretty wild too. Marion Marcal, granddaughter of Jean-Marie Le Pen, who had joined Zemmour instead of her family, announced on live TV she wants to ally with Republicans Nationale next to a Zemmour who apparently had not been consulted on this. Later that day, Marcal announces that she met with the RN and heavily hints that the condition that they set for an alliance is to get rid of Zemmour. Bear in mind that the party that they're a part of was literally founded by this person. Zemmour then goes on TV and calls for Merkel's behavior the world record of betrayals and says she's surrounded by a team of betrayal professionals. Zemmour decides not to go for an alliance and to present his own candidates. Marion Markel calls it a triple mistake and calls on everyone to vote for those candidates that did ally with the Republicans Nationale. So that right-wing party has also imploded. Meanwhile, Macron shoots at the newly formed Popular Front, essentially saying that those who join it are anti-Semites, because LFI, who campaigned a lot for the Palestinians, so obviously makes them and everyone with them anti-Semites. So good job, Macron. You gotta get yourself in there too. In other news, Alain Frankfurt, one of France's foremost Jewish intellectuals, says he might be obliged to vote for Le Pen in order to block anti-Semitism. As a reminder, Le Pen's party was co-founded by Pierre Bosque, a former Waffen-SS member.
What?
So there you go. That is 72 hours in France's politics.
Wow, that was really cool. It reminds me of Game of Thrones.
Late addition to this on what the voters actually want, because, yeah, France is still a democracy and they're going to vote on it. A huge majority of voters on the left are favorable to the Popular Front alliance. 97% of LFI voters want it, 86% of socialists, and 77% of the Greens. Les Républicains voters are about split 50-50. 53% agree, 47% disagree. Overwhelming support among Zemmour voters for an alliance with Le Pen, 89% want it, so it looks like Marianne Marchal represents voters with more than the person Zemmour, because the party is named after the guy. He was telling me that the Greens in particular in France are on some wild shit where apparently they have campaigned in favor of keeping coal running because they are so anti-nuclear. It's like, it's 2024 and there are still people who are that anti-nuclear power. Some wild things to see.
Have you seen The Simpsons? I don't want three-eyed fish. Kyril, I do not want three-eyed fish. You know how gross that would be?
Mm-hmm.
I do not want three-eyed fish.
But what if fish eyes become a delicacy?
I do not want three-eyed fish.
All right. Fair enough.
Kyril, three-eyed fish do not sound good.
It sounds like someone who's not had three-eyed fish before.
Oh, have you?
No.
Yeah, shut the fuck up, Kyril.
Speaking of fish, not much to actually say on this article, but I saw there's a headline on the BBC that says, "Are animals conscious? How new research is changing minds." I strongly believe in the not-so-distant future, we're going to look back on the question, are animals conscious? In the same way that we look back on doctors in like the 50s and 60s that were asking, do babies feel pain? Where the answer is an overwhelming and resounding, yes, of course they do. What the fuck are you talking about?
I think the question they want to ask are they sentient? You know? Do they have...
Maybe, but that's not what they're asking.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. Apparently, this is a fundamental idea that Darwin wrote about, and the same time as his on the evolution of species kind of stuff. And people dismissed him because they didn't like it.
Not many people like Darwin.
Fundamental idea here that's at the core of this discussion is the idea that animals feel pleasure and pain, happiness and misery. Quote Darwin, "There is no fundamental difference between man and animals in their ability to feel pleasure and pain, happiness and misery," which I would almost entirely agree with.
I mean, isn't that like... I feel like there's been like a lot of cultural stories even about like animal depression. So like...
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Fuck. I can't remember it to save my life. The Japanese dog story.
Mm-hmm.
That one. The dog that waits at the train all day. I feel like
Yeah.
an objectively an anecdote for consciousness. Yeah.
Hachiko.
Hachiko, that's it.
Yep. Very sad. Very good doggo.
Very good dog. Belongs in the Doggo Hall of Fame.
Something that I saw this week that was just going around on social media that was like another kind of just like, this doesn't make sense unless you attribute some level of emotional intelligence to these animals, was a video that was going around of a wolf that was trying to, like, was basically begging for scraps from a bear that was eating a deer.
Oh.
Which is just like, you can't, like, this doesn't make sense. Either the wolf knows what's going on, or something extremely complex that we don't understand is going on here, and only one of these things really makes sense.
Well, like, have you ever seen like two cats interact? Cats are emotional, like little fucks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Movies
I think that's
week.
a stupid question.
I agree. I entirely agree. But I don't know. That's the state of, what would you call it? The state of the art, right? That's where the science is right now, is that science today says no. And I think, I agree. I think we're going to look back on this as a society, not us specifically, but society will look back on this 10, 20 years from now and just be like, the fuck were you talking about back then?
Are you
Doesn't
high?
make any sense. Yeah. And to be clear, the babies feeling pain thing, that's like an actual opinion that doctors used to have. Doctors used to believe, genuinely, that babies did not feel pain because their nervous systems were not developed yet.
Why the fuck do they spank a baby when they come out? Just to make sure they're breathing.
Yeah. No. It's based on nonsense.
Like, you can't have like a one-sided fact that supports one line of reasoning and then declare that it doesn't apply to another side.
Yep. Pretty much. Movies this week, not much that actually released this week.
The big one
Last week.
Yeah.
Last week, Bad Boys Ride or Die came out.
Oh yeah, the Will Smith comeback tour.
It's doing fine. It's like, it's Bad Boys number 5. So
is it?
Yep. Yeah, it's the 5th one. I'm pretty sure.
It's kind of gross.
Mm-hmm. Major release this week, Inside Out 2.
My girlfriend's going through like a character arc where she's like, I don't want to watch that movie in theaters. And then it's getting good reviews. And she's like, I kind of think we could go watch that movie in theaters. And I'm fully expecting to go see that movie next week when she makes up her mind.
I am still wholly unconvinced that this was a movie that needed a sequel. I don't know.
What's your opinions on the original Inside Out?
It's fine. Perfectly serviceable. That's, it's an animated kids movie, right?
Well, I argue it's like a movie about the importance of emotional intelligence.
Sure.
Yeah. But like, its message is like very elementary in a way, in that it's important for a kid to get, but like I don't think it's necessarily something that could be like as self-serving for like an adult in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll do fine with it. It's, Disney knows what they're doing, Pixar especially.
Oh, did you hear that thing Pixar said about
What's
original
that?
movies?
I vaguely, but I can't remember exactly what it was.
So they're of the opinion that original films like Luca, Turning Red, and Elemental, they cited those as very all about the director and did not allow for anybody else to feel attached to it and blame that aspect on the films being cinematically underperforming, and that in the future they will seek to remedy that by making only movies that have a broad mass appeal. Which I don't know about you, but I thought all three of those movies were pretty good.
Yeah. Having them include Turning Red and Luca is a bit odd, given that they came out during the pandemic and had basically no theatrical release. Um, but like I don't know. I of the three, I strongly believe that Elemental is like the least, or I guess the most creatively bankrupt, relatively speaking. And even then, it's like it's not that bad.
I think
It made him
Elemental.
like half a
Sorry.
billion dollars.
Elemental makes more sense if you ask the question, what would a Studio Ghibli movie directed by Hayao Miyazaki would look like?
Maybe.
I feel like I see a lot of Ghibli influence in that movie.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that automatically makes it a superior product, but I think it helps contextualize a lot what's going on.
I think more than like the actual premise of the movie, I just dislike the setting of it.
Well, the
I'm
Elemental
very
City?
tired of Disney movies having like the most generic utopia-esque visual design to their cityscapes that you could possibly imagine.
You're right, because there's been like this thing since Zootopia itself,
Yep.
where I feel like every city we've been in, a lot of movies actually. I don't think it's just
Mm-hmm.
Disney, but like Detective Pikachu is definitely a offender of the
Yep.
Zootopia Paradise City.
Absolutely. Like if Elemental, like on the Ghibli thing, if Elemental was just set in the countryside somewhere, doesn't necessarily have to be Japanese or American or any particular nationality of countryside, but not in a metropolis, I think it would appear at least to have much more of its own design.
Yeah, I do feel there's like this. It's kind of boring. Like I don't think the city
Mm-hmm.
design in those movies are particularly good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I think it's purposely average, right?
Mm-hmm.
Due to the fact that a lot of it is focused on the residents and coexisting in life. But at the same time, I feel like you could do more with like the design.
Mm-hmm. So I guess now is a good time as any to get into what I wanted to talk about with regard to movies this week.
Okay.
Because I'll be honest, I don't really care about Bad Boys. I don't really care about Inside Out too. But I did, as I mentioned, I went and saw Furiosa again.
Yes.
And I do not understand why it is performing so poorly at the box office. It's not overly long. It's incredibly well made. It has fantastic performances. It's being made, as like kind of it's I don't even know. I don't understand why it's doing so poorly. It was made on a $168 million budget. So far it has $148 million recorded at the box office. So 20 million at least under budget, and budget numbers are often underrated to start with.
Mm-hmm.
Compare that to other things that have come out around the same time. At the start of May, we had The Fall Guy that came out. Budget of about 125 to 150 million, box office of 167 million. If of the Imaginary Friends fucking movie had a budget of 110 million, came out of the box office with 173 million. Kind of the sleeper hit that I didn't realize did as well as it did. The Garfield movie. Do you want to take a guess what its numbers were?
Oh fuck me.
I'm
290
shocked
million?
No. They made it on a $60 million budget, and it made back 202.
No.
Yeah. Kingdom of the Planets of the Apes. $160 million budget. Almost exactly the same. Came out of the box office, $366 million. Bad Boys Ride or Die. $100 million budget, $160 million at the box office. And then Inside Out 2, with its opening weekend, $200 million budget, $295 million at the box office. So it's of like pretty much all of the major releases of the last month and a half. It's like just Furiosa that failed to at least crack their budget back. And I don't understand it. It does not make sense to me.
It has Anya Taylor-Joy in it. And she's got
She
like... Yeah.
is so fucking good.
Is she?
Yes. Particularly at the end, She does such a good job sounding like Charlize Theron in Mad Max that I've seen multiple people question whether or not it was actually her doing it or if they just dubbed it over with Charlize Theron, and it was actually just Anya Taylor-Joy being a phenomenal fucking actress.
That's amazing.
Chris Hemsworth is excellent. I think it arguably might be his best role ever.
That's saying a lot.
Like, I'm curious, where's his like filmography?
Are you implying he did a better performance than Thor: Love and Thunder?
I just might be.
Jacques.
Oh, sorry. Apparently, he was in the Jane Silent Bob reboot as himself.
That makes sense.
He was apparently in Ghostbusters. All right, he was in Ghostbusters. That 2016 Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah, he was their himbo.
Yeah. Oh, he was in Rush. I don't remember who he played in that, but must not have been particularly notable if I forgot about it.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, he's just not had, outside of the Marvel stuff, he's honestly just not had a deep filmography.
I think that's really indicative of why he stayed in Marvel after, you know, his two other leads, you know, in the MCU bowed out.
Mm-hmm. I hope that the reception to his performance as Dementus encourages him more to reach out and try other things, because it is exceptional. He plays the villain so well, and particularly this villain. Seeing him lean into his Australian roots and let it just pull through fits for the character so well.
You know,
And
yeah.
on this,
Sorry.
I was going to say, for the side of George Miller, having seen it the second time now, I think it's really fascinating on his writing side, because he's obviously been involved with Mad Max since the first one, to see how he has allowed the characters that are in Furiosa's movie here to compare and contrast to the events of Max's life. Give like alternative, you know, what happened to other people who were presented with similar circumstances. I think that's fascinating. But we'll see. I desperately hope, because George Miller's like 79 right now. I hope so much that in another 10 years we get the sixth Mad Max movie, I guess it would be at that point. And he's like still out in the middle of the fucking Australian desert at barely cracking 90 years old, still doing this shit, because he's just got an eye for some of this stuff that nobody else comes close to.
Have you seen the updates from Wake Up Dead Man?
Wake Up Dead Man. I don't think so.
So we have a cast, but we
The
also
song by U2.
it hurts me that the movie's named after that song.
Is it really?
Yeah, Knives Out is a Radiohead song, and Glass Onion is a Beatles song.
Oh, okay. I guess that's fair enough.
They've redesigned Blanc.
I saw that very noticeably.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of fuck with his new design.
I totally fuck with the new design. I have to assume this is like Blanc, 10 or 15 years later.
Yeah, something happened to
And
him.
seeing, like, just having Daniel Craig with like bangs at all and gray hair is such a refreshing new stylistic choice. He looks so different.
I've liked this design so much, it's my fucking profile picture in Discord right now.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I really like it. I'm very excited to see what they've done with it, because
They say this is supposed to be a much
very
darker
different
film.
for sure.
Yeah. So, care to go over the cast? Are you okay? I think I lost him, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, you cut out there pretty good for me though.
Oh, my
Can you
apologies.
hear me?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, yeah.
Care to go over the cast?
How much do we know so far?
We know a lot about the cast.
Oh, okay.
As with
IMDb
any,
seemed kind of short.
we have 11 people, which are, our suspects probably.
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't know half these people, so please refresh me if you happen to know them. I'll start with the big one. Jeremy Renner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm calling it. He's the villain. He killed somebody.
I don't know. Josh Brolin makes a good villain.
Josh Brolin would also make a good villain.
Mm-hmm.
We have Kylie Spaney. Is that how you pronounce it?
Okay. I guess Kaylee.
Kaylee. My apologies. Andrew Scott. Josh O'Connor. Kerry Washington. Mila Kunis. Glenn Close. Glenn motherfucking Close.
No, very big name.
Daryl McCormick. And Thomas Hayden Church.
So I'm refreshing myself on some of these. Thomas Hayden Church was Sandman, Flint Marko, Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
So, Daryl McCormick, excuse me. Not seeing anything that I'm familiar with. He was in Peaky Blinders, did very well. Otherwise, looks like a lot of British television, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Kerry Washington, Django Unchained, apparently did some Simpsons work. How to Get Away with Murder, TV series, small role there. Again, not really seeing much. Oh, there we go. Cars 3.
There we go. There's the big casting.
Same thing for Josh O'Connor. Not seeing a ton that I recognize. Is apparently in the TV adaptation of Les Mis.
Huh. Okay.
Andrew Scott was apparently... Oh, yeah. He played C Inspector. Was a fine sort of like side villain kind of role. 1917 played Lieutenant Leslie. Checks out. Another smaller role, but did good in it. Sherlock played... Oh, sorry. Sherlock TV series plays Moriarty. Yeah. That checks out. Kaylee Spaney is apparently in Civil War. Haven't seen it. Was in On the Basis of Sex, the Ruth Bader Ginsburg film. What else? Was in Vice. Had a small role there. Pacific Rim. Yeah. Nice mix of like levels of talent. I kind of like that.
I do too. If there's one thing I've always loved about these movies is the casting has always been good.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Rian Johnson does good casting for sure.
Yeah. Every movie I feel like in this series has always been a good mix of people I would expect and people I would never expect.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what's my favorite part about these movies?
I'm curious. I have no idea what Glenn Close has been up to lately, and I'm really curious. Because, like, she was apparently in Guardians of the Galaxy short. Sure, why not? Basically nothing that I've seen or even heard of. Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy played Nova Prime.
Huh.
Hoodwinked. Sorry, Hoodwinked 2, my bad. Oh no, and in the original Hoodwinked, she plays the grandma.
Really?
Yeah. Hoodwinked has a shockingly stacked cast.
Really? Okay.
Oh yeah. You want to go through this real quick?
Is Hoodwinked the original Knives Out? Big bulging eyes.
It's kind of wild. Anne Hathaway, Glenn Close, Patrick Warburton, Jim Belushi, Anthony Anderson, Exhibit, and then there's a bunch of people who are like voice actor people. Tom Kenny. Yeah. That's like 3/4 of the cast. But
oh my god.
It's weirdly stacked.
That is weirdly stacked. And this movie had like no budget, if I remember right.
Oh no, it looks like shit.
Yeah. I remember the writing was pretty good though.
It was. It's very fun. I'm actually curious. Is it still for free on YouTube?
Oh my fucking god, that budget's so small. Kyril, would you care to guess how big the budget was for this 2005
Oh
comedy?
god. I have no idea. Like $2?
8 million.
Yeah. And it's got a crazy cast. Like just Anne Hathaway and Glenn Close can't be nothing.
So get this right.
Yeah.
The box office for this $8 million movie,
Mm-hmm.
110 million.
I believe it. It's not crazy, but it was solid.
That just the difference between those two is amazing to me.
So Hoodwinked is no longer available on YouTube, but the sequel apparently is.
What the fuck?
The sequel was a lot worse. Would you guess?
The sequel had such a larger budget. What the fuck?
Yeah.
What? No. You know who did the fucking music for the sequel?
Who's that?
Murray Gold of Doctor Who fame.
Yeah.
That blows my mind.
Yeah, they had to recast a bunch of people because I assume at this point they couldn't afford some of the actors again. But yeah.
You know, it'd been a great way to like make a profit off this movie.
What's that?
Not make the movie.
Yeah, pretty much. Just re-release the first one again.
Yeah, just like reanimate the first one and we'll be good.
I will say, I don't know if this is like a trend in that happening, but I have been finding it interesting to see how many movies are just being re-released in theaters again. Where it kind of sucks because you have to think like, damn, that would have been a mid-budget movie 10 years ago that didn't get made now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a lot better than some of the shit that usually gets released.
You know, I went and saw Shrek 2 when it re-released in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it was probably one of the better theater experiences I've had in like the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Who knew watching
Good movies stay good.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's the gist of what I've got for today, though. You had something that you wanted to talk about from movie wise, though, right?
I sat down on my day off from work and I got to do something I've been meaning to do for a while. Godzilla Minus One is a certified fucking banger. So, do you follow Godzilla movies?
Not especially, honestly.
I'm a long-time enjoyer, first-time watcher.
Hmm. Actually, I'd have to say, if I went back, I think with the newer ones at least, I think I've seen all but one of them once. I've never rewatched any of them, but I'm like at least familiar with where the modern ones have gone and how different it is from where they used to be.
I really appreciate Godzilla Minus One for what it is. It's like, I understand it's like the basic idea Godzilla is the shark in Jaws.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, it's a very, very good representation of Godzilla as a whole. I really like this film because it's scary. It's scary. It's a little scary. It's very in your face with like this very subtle horror.
Mm-hmm.
It only had a budget of $10 to $12 million.
Yeah,
That
which
blows
is
my
wild.
fucking mind. This is
Part of
almost a
that
hoodwink.
might be, I would say part of that might be like exchange rates, because I know the Japanese yen is not doing stellar right now, but
Yeah.
still.
Overall, this movie has this great color palette. It's got like this nice washed over vintage look to it.
Hmm.
And I think it's very intentional considering what is going on here. Because it's supposed to be a Godzilla movie that takes place earlier than the original Godzilla movie what did.
Hmm.
The original one came out in the 40s. Oh, sorry, in the 50s. This one takes place in the 40s.
Hmm.
So you see like a lot of old retro World War II-esque items here.
Hmm.
And I will say, it probably sucked being post World War II Japan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How long do you think it takes for us to get to Godzilla in this film, by the way?
I don't know how long is it. Does it have the runtime here?
It's like 2 hours.
2 hours. I Man, if it's doing the Jaws thing, I would imagine that they like give you like glimpses at about like the hour mark, but they don't actually show it until you're like well into the third act.
First 10 minutes.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Like, what
That's
I
nice.
like.
I I guess that makes sense because everybody knows what Godzilla looks like already, right? If you were
Yeah.
gonna do Jaws again, you wouldn't hide the shark because everybody knows what a fucking shark looks like.
So, one of my favorite things. Do you care about spoilers?
Not especially. I kind of understand the gist of the plot.
So, the way they treat Godzilla in this film is that he is a kind of a native. There's like a small little navy base on an island, right?
Hmm.
And he's like the local folk monster that some people don't believe is real or not. And while this Navy pilot lands, sorry, not Navy pilot, kamikaze pilot lands to get his plane tuned up, that night Godzilla just shows up, and it's a very small Godzilla. It's like probably 15 feet tall, not like the giant Godzilla we see throughout the film. And he just tears these fuckers to parts. It's just this scary ass scene. You don't expect Godzilla to jump in that fast.
Hmm.
And then he leaves for like a good maybe quarter of the movie afterwards. And then Hiroshima happens, and then that's when Godzilla gets fucking giant. So there's like this whole early portion of the movie where where there's even a debate if Godzilla exists or not. Even though we, the audience, see him in like the first 10 minutes. It's a very good movie. I recommend it immensely. The fucking thumbnail to today's video is my favorite shot in the last 10 years of film. I've not shown Cairo the shot, so he has no idea what I'm talking about.
Nope.
No.
But I have seen so many like beauty shots from this film of people just being like, "Damn."
Yeah.
The I believe it. Interesting piece here. I'm skimming through the Wikipedia page because obviously it's got a very small budget.
Mm-hmm.
Talking on visual effects, they have a thing that says that all the film's visual effects were handled by a crew of 35 artists under the supervision of the director. According to LA Times, between a quarter and a third of the film's budget was spent on the visuals. I have to wonder if, or maybe when, we're going to start to see that become more commonplace. Because we're already starting to see that in video game spaces, where all of the AAA studios have gotten so big and bloated that they can't really make small personal stories anymore because there's just so many people working on it that it's just not feasible, right? Like 35 people is a lot, but compared to when you have like someone like Bungie having 1,000 people working on an expansion, right? It's completely different scales. I wonder if this is what it takes to get the mid-budget film back, right? If it forces the production groups to divorce themselves from the big budget habits that the industry has become accustomed to. Just have 35 people in a room all working on the same thing. You don't need a whole studio to get it farmed out to. You know, you don't need scores of people working on it. Marvel. You just need talented people and time.
I will say, you can throw so many people at a problem, but time is the only thing that will actually truly solve it in cinematic effects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know what's the wild thing about this? The next immediate Godzilla property that came out after -1, this very theatrical, larger than life film, was Kong X Godzilla, The New Empire.
Yeah.
Imagine having to follow that up.
What was the budget for this piece of shit? 54% on Rotten. I say it's a piece. It's not that bad. It's just such. Yeah, it's literally 10 times. That's the thing that surprised me because it had 10 times the budget, and it only made 5 times the money back. I don't see how, if you're like big, production companies, you don't see that and be like, damn, I could have doubled my money if I was smarter with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, even then, I think there's like an actuarial side into it where they have to assign
Sorry.
risk.
Also, how the fuck did Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire make $500 million? Why is this what people want? What are you doing?
Fuck?
You can do better.
I didn't see that box office.
571 million. I don't understand it.
I don't know anybody who's seen this movie. Do you?
No. I know reviewers who have seen it, and I saw the reviews and went like, yeah, I'm still not going to see that movie.
Was it big in China?
Real people? Probably. Who fucking knows?
I'm sorry. I'm.
As of 2024, it holds the record for the highest grossing Godzilla film ever.
That's really fucking sad.
Yep. Jesus, okay. I hate this even more. After making $37 million on its first day, including $10 million from Thursday previews, the best ever total for a Monsterverse film. Very deeply cringeworthy.
Hey, think about it this way, though.
Man,
right?
this apparently...
Sorry.
Yeah.
In this one moment, right? In this little space of time we're operating in right now, right? The fucking Monsterverse is the most well-performing cinematic universe. Huh? The Monsterverse?
What's up? You cut out a bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm saying right now, the Monsterverse is the most well-performing cinematic universe at the moment. Wow. Okay. They are censoring me right now. Marvel does not want to pull up with me.
I think it's cleared up.
Okay. I'm going to say this a third time just for our Disney overlords to hear it. The Monsterverse is the best performing cinematic universe at the moment.
That's not wrong.
It's not wrong.
I was going to comment, this is apparently the 5th best Easter weekend movie of all time, joining the illustrious company of BVS, Dawn of Justice, 2016, Furious 7 in 2015, the Super Mario movie in 2023, and The Fate of the Furious in 2017.
I only know 2 of those movies.
Actually, let me actually check something real quick, because these numbers don't really make sense. So, Godzilla X Kong grossed $197.5 million in the United States and Canada.
Okay.
It made $37 million on its first day, including $10 million from Thursday previews, the best total ever for a Monsterverse film. Went on to debut at $80 million, so minus 80, topping the box office for the Easter weekend. Okay. In its second weekend, the film made $31.2 million, a drop of 61%, remaining in first. So they can take off another 31.2. In its third weekend, the film made $15.5 million, finishing second behind newcomer Civil War. So we can take off another $15.5 million. There's still $70 million in these domestic budget grossings. Mathematically, that seems impossible.
I think you found something you probably shouldn't, Kyril.
It just doesn't make sense. Like, that's a clear trend. 80, 31.2, 15.5. I could graph that shit. Where does the rest of the money come from? What the hell?
Merchandise?
No, this is just box office sales.
No. I'm not sure.
What are these sources they're citing? Godzilla X Kong, the numbers, Nash Information Services. I have no idea what this is. Details. No, so they just have. What? That doesn't make sense.
What?
They're just adding numbers randomly. So week 1, gross, $80 million. Week 2, for the week 2, they have the 31.2 million, but then the total jumps up to 134.5. So there's just $23 million that came from who knows where. The next week, it jumps up to 158, even though there's only 15.5, which is like, again, another 15. No, it's like 19, almost 20 million again. That's just like, where did it come from? That's very strange.
Yeah, the more you say on this, the more I'm feeling like something ain't right.
Yeah. Huh. I'm curious. I've got the stupid calculator open. I'm just going to do the numbers here. So 134.540. Here's a 0. Oh, it should be not a period. That's a comma. 540 000 minus 80 006 0 minus 31 203 000. So that's 23,33,1 000 between week 1 and week 2 that I don't know where the fuck it came from. And then 158,021,111 minus 134,540,000 minus. Is that right? I guess that's right. 15,539 000. That's another 7.9. Riveting television, I know.
I know. I'm just waiting for the punchline at the end.
It just doesn't make sense. I don't know. Like right away, off the bat, I'm not going to bother going through the next, like, 8 weeks, but just the first 2 weeks, that's at least $30 million that seem to come in from nowhere. I don't understand.
Skill issue?
Like, let me check one more thing real quick, because they have a pay per theater. So they say for that second week where the discrepancy starts, it was shown in 3,948 theaters, and each theater took home $7,904. Yeah, and that's just the gross, the 31.2. That's just 31.2 divided by the number of theaters. So that doesn't account for, like, if there was some weird, like, they're not counting weekday sales or something. I don't know. Very strange. Would be curious to know where that money came from.
You want to know where it came from?
Sure.
Just don't talk about it. just don't talk about it. Some things in this life we can't talk about, Kyril.
I guess so.
Is there anything else you want to talk about on the show?
No, I think someone's knocking on my door, so I should probably figure out who that is.
It's Godzilla and Kong themselves. Okay, well, I'm Youth Orion, and I've been a kaiju.
And I'm Kyril. And I've been Furiosa? I don't know, that doesn't really work.
This has been a confusing metaphor.